So that basically up till here, that concludes the conventional bodhicitta, or conventional awakening mind, where we just read before the break that the considering the three objects, the three poisons and the three virtues, the instruction to be followed in short, it is to be mindful of the practice in general and taking these words to heart in all activities. So including that part is the conventional awakening mind. And so now the next topic is the ultimate awakening mind, where it says when stability has been gained. So stability in what? Stability in the training of bodhicitta, and then in particular, the training of exchanging self for others. So if that has been stable, then one engaged in part the secret teachings here of emptiness, and then consider all phenomena as like dreams, examine the nature of the unborn awareness. The remedy itself is released in its own place the essence of the part and the nature of the basis of all. In the period between sessions, be a creator of illusions. So that's the verse of the ultimate awakening mind. So then here, when it talks about consider all phenomena like dreams and examine the nature of unborn awareness. So that's referring to, we could say, to various objects and object possessors, or well, external objects and the mind itself, so to say. So things appear to our minds in a true way, a truly established way, but actually that appearance is false. Yeah, it's like a dream. So that is in relation with objects that appear to us truly, that is like in a dream. It's also what appears in a dream is not a reality. In a similar way, the object appearing truly is not a reality. So that correlation has been made between objects appearing truly and a dream. Then for the mind itself, also the mind itself is empty of true existence. So also there, the object or object possessor, in this case, the mind itself, is here referring to the nature of unborn awareness, meaning empty of true existence. So here these two lines refer to, we could say, the apprehender and the apprehended. So to see everything as an illusion also, we can see then similar as this twofold division in this verse, we can also see in the Lama Chopa. Yeah, there, for those who like to know, LC 107, there, I seek your blessings to perfect the samadhi and illusion by realizing how all outer and inner phenomena. Yeah, so here also you have the outer phenomena, the objects like a dream, the inner phenomena of consciousness, as you've been indicated as the unborn awareness. So by realizing how outer and inner phenomena lack true existence, but still appear like an illusion, a dream, or a moon image in a still lake. So there's a similar kind of quotation we can find in Lama Chopa referring to the same point. So the aspects of like a dream or aspects like an illusion, so to say, we can see that in the various forms of Buddhist tenets, and in particular also we can see in the middleway tenets of the Yogacarya schools and the Prasangika schools, where it talks about these kind of examples that things are like an illusion, like a dream. And for the Taogyo, for the Prasangika view, for example, there you can see that objects, they don't exist from their own side. Yeah, the appearance of objects depends on many causes and conditions. There's an object, there's a conscious apprehending it, and there's a uncommon empowering condition, for example. So there are various aspects playing a role. It's not just from the object side itself that things appear. It depends on many causes and conditions. Or when you look at the moon, for example, there's an eye consciousness, there's an appearance, and there's various causes and conditions present to make that appearance happening and to understand what you're seeing. So that means that no object exists from its own side. It's all dependent on various causes and conditions. So that's one of the sutras of the Buddha, where it also indicates these points that things don't arise without dependence on conditions, and things don't arise inherently, and things arise by the power of causes and effect relationships or dependence, and that's why things don't exist from their own side. So that means that every basis, so to say, depends on causes and conditions. Yeah, nothing exists from their own side, or nothing exists inherently. And things do appear in a particular way, but things don't exist the way they appear. And the dependence of causes and conditions, or dependent origination, helps us to prove that things cannot exist from their own side. And because things do not exist from their own side, that also proves that things are in the nature of dependence, dependent on causes and conditions. So actually, dependent origination supports the view of emptiness, and the view of emptiness supports the view of dependent origination. So that's kind of a dual kind of support we can see in these two realities of dependent origination and emptiness. So a similar quotation we can also find back in the Lama Chöpa, LC 108, where it says, samsara and nirvana lack even atom of inherent existence, and cause and effects and depend arising are on betraying. I seek your blessings to discern the meaning of Nagarjuna's thoughts, that these two are mutually complementary and not contradictory. So there also it indicates that even if you look for a particular true existence or aspect of inherent existence, you cannot find that aspect. Yeah, so that's true for all phenomena. And so that's why it says in this verse, samsara and nirvana are lacking every atom of inherent existence. And the cause and effect and depending or arising are on betraying. Yeah, so you can have various commentaries on what does that actually mean, that this conventional reality of dependent arising is on betraying. Then you can have a simple explanation of just putting your finger into the fire, and then you know there is kind of there's kind of heat, and you burn your fire, you burn your finger. So that's kind of an aspect of an experience of the unbetraying aspect of conventional reality. Then by understanding the meaning of, as Nagarjuna indicated here, or we seek blessings to understand this meaning, that both dependent origination and emptiness, they support each other. Yeah, they're mutually complementary, they complement each other and don't contradict each other. So dependent origination support emptiness, and emptiness supports dependent origination. So we can see that, the afflictions like attachment and anger, they are based upon this aspect of grasping at a self, or grasping at true existence or inherent existence. So things appear inherently, but that's not the reality. Things do not exist the way they appear. So if you understand that aspect, that things do not exist the way they appear, you can eliminate those afflictions like attachment and anger. In a similar way, there's a quotation where it reads that all afflictions arise from an inherent or an apprehension of inherent self, and seeing the emptiness of this inherent self, the yogi will stop ignorance and will stop the afflictions. So that means that if you all the afflictions arise from apprehension of inherent self, and seeing the emptiness of that, or seeing the emptiness of an inherent self, then you can stop those afflictions, because you stop ignorance, and by the power of that, also afflictions cease to exist. And also in the supplement to the middle way, then there Chandakirti also indicates that to basically understand the subtle aspect of the unbetraying aspect of conventional reality, or the subtle aspect of reality, is not easy to comprehend. Because just merely not finding form or not finding mind among the different moments is not enough. You have to see the aspects of inherent existence that cannot be found, and then proving that there is a mere conventional reality left, right, after you have generated that understanding. So that particular insight of that the conventional reality is unbetraying, of course, in effect, is not an easy way to come to that conclusion. Lama Tsongkhapa also indicates that in the various scriptures of the middle-length Lamrim and the Great Exposition, as well as eliminating the attent, then it talks about just merely stopping the establishment of things from their own side, and then based on that stopping of inherent existence, then seeing that karma is on betraying and the law of cause and effect is on betraying. That's a very, very difficult point. That's not easy to come into the mind of the meditator. In a similar way, we see Lama Tsongkhapa saying the same thing in the three principle aspect of the path. Yeah, there's a few verses related with showing the right view. And then it says, by the definition of completing the correct view, it says, if these two realizations, dependent origination and emptiness, are happening simultaneously without alternation, and from merely seeing dependent relation as completely unbetraying, the definite ascertainment comes that completely destroys the way of all objects are apprehended as true existence. And at that time, the analysis of the ultimate view is complete. So that indicates to eventually see the conventional reality as unbetraying in that as a support for emptiness. That is not an easy view to be accomplished or to be ascertained.
Oh.
That is the unbetraying view that should be accomplished and should be ascertained. Then in the last two lines of that same verse of training in the ultimate awakening mind, where it says the enemy itself is released in its own place the essence of the part on the nature of the basis of all. So the first, the second and the third line in that verse, when it talks about phenomena like dreams and unborn awareness, that is referring to objects and object possessors, you can say, or apprehender and apprehended. And then it talks about the remedy itself. Yeah, emptiness itself is also empty of inherent existence. Whatever is empty of inherent existence is also empty of inherent existence, right? So empty is also empty of inherent existence. And that actually refers, in that line, sorry, it refers to that emptiness itself is also empty of inherent existence, doesn't exist from its own side. So here, when it says place the essence on the part, the nature of the basis of all. So here, the nature of the basis of all is also then referring to that everything, that without the actual realization of emptiness, there's no liberation, there's no way you can achieve liberation and enlightenment. So that's why here it's referring to the essence of the part, the nature of the basis of all, the need to realize emptiness. So that means that if you realize emptiness, you can achieve liberation. If you don't realize emptiness, you just wander around in samsara. So that is basically the basis of samsara and nirvana. So then, having seen that things are empty of inherent existence, then when one comes out of that meditation, then in the period between sessions, you should see things as an illusion or creator of illusion, meaning things appear truly, but you already understand by power of your realization that things do not exist the way they appear. So the appearance of true existence is kind of the appearance of an illusion or like an illusion. So then the next point in the text, transforming adverse circumstances into path to enlightenment, there it reads, when the environment and its inhabitants overflow with wholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances into the path. So here is referring to the various difficulties that can be faced. And then those difficulties, those adverse circumstances should actually be put into the part of the circumstances. We should take those adverse circumstances into corporate circumstances, or to use those adverse circumstances in a way that we learn from it or that we progress from it. In a similar way, we can read in Bodhisattva Charyavatara that the causes for suffering are many and the causes for happiness are less. So we cannot escape experiencing various forms of suffering. And then there's a great benefit of experiencing suffering, because without suffering, there's no renunciation. So that's one of the great benefits of experiencing suffering itself. So also in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, it also says that furthermore, that the qualities of suffering can be seen as that it actually, because of the experience suffering, the mind gets a bit down, and because of that, that the mind gets a bit down, it actually eliminates pride. So it can actually an antidote towards pride, or the benefit to counteract pride. In a similar way, without seeing the suffering of beings wandering in samsara, we will not generate compassion. So also for that purpose, there is a benefit of or quality, so to say, of experiencing suffering. In a similar way, if you experience suffering, you see it's being created by the cause of non-virtue, so that will force you to avoid committing non-virtuous actions. So the first two lines of this verse, where it says when the environment and inhabitants overflow with wholesomeness and transform adverse circumstances into the path, is kind of a brief explanation of taking or transforming adverse circumstances into the path. The last two lines, applying meditation immediately at every opportunity, the supreme methods is accompanied by the four practices. So that's an extensive explanation in the commentary of transforming adverse circumstances into the path. In the commentary, there's also a quotation in His Holiness Dalai Lama, also often quotes, and that is well by one Kashmiri Pandita. And there it says, whenever you experience happiness, then one should one should dedicate this to all or to the collection of sentient beings. And when, and that kind of collection of happiness, should you think of happiness and benefits, should be like the feeling, may that fill the whole sky. Yeah, so that's kind of a dedication or prayer, so to say. Then that's in relation with happiness. Then in relation with the suffering, one should take the responsibility to carry that suffering and to carry that suffering away. And even to the extent that the great ocean of suffering completely dries up, or may by me taking away the suffering of others, may the ocean of suffering completely be dried up. So that's a kind of a prayer which can be very powerful in our training in these kind of dealing with these kind of circumstances. A similar way as this quotation we can find also in the Lama Chöpa LC 96, where it also reads, even if the environment and beings are filled with the fruits of negative karma and on which for suffering pour down like rain, I seek your blessings to take these miserable conditions as a part, by seeing them as a cause to exhaust the results of my negative karma. Yes. So then it says in the extensive explanation, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. And then the supreme method is accomplished by the 4 practices. So what are those 4 practices? Of course, we need to accumulate merit. Yeah. And so we need to have the accumulations of virtue. And that's the dedication of the mind of enlightenment. That's the first point. The second one is in order to eliminate the adverse circumstances, we have to engage in the purification of negative karma and obscurations. And that's number 2. And then number 3 is referring to trauma offerings to those who create obstacles in general. And number 4 is the trauma offering to the protectors. So here in the mind training, we try to reverse those last 2, meaning you make you offer traumas to those who can create obstacles and request for obstacles. And in a similar way, you offer traumas to the protectors, not to remove obstacle, but actually to get obstacles for the power of your training in the mind training. So that's a kind of an uncommon aspect here with regards to trauma offerings. And then the text reads further to integrated practice over a single lifetime. Yeah, point number 4. It says, in brief, the essence of the instruction is to train in the 5 powers. So this is kind of a prayer or a request we can read here. In a similar way, also in the Lama Chöpa, we find a similar verse, LC 97, where it reads, in short, no matter what opinions may arise, whether good or bad, I seek your blessings to transform them into the path, increasing the 2 bodhicittas to the practice of the 5 powers, the acquaintance of the entire Dharma, and thus cultivate only mental happiness. So here, these 5 powers are meant for the increase of one practice in bodhicitta. And well, what are those 5 powers? The first one is the power of intention. Yeah, that by the power of that one should have the strong intention not to lose your intention of training into the path, and not to lose your interest in eliminating the grasping at the self, as well as eliminating attachment and anger. So that's one should never give up. Yeah, so that's the power of intention, the power not to give that up. The second one is the power of acquaintance, that by the power of your training, may you be never separated. Yeah, so by the power of meditating but again and again, and the habituation, one generates a power of acquaintance and never to be separated from that mind training of bodhicitta. The third one is the power of the white seed. That means that by the power of this particular accumulation of the increase of bodhicitta, so contemplating bodhicitta again and again to let it increase and never let it degenerate. Yeah, so that particular white seed in that way will help you to preserve and increase bodhicitta as well. Then the fourth one is the power of remorse, meaning that one should see the faults of the self-cherishing attitude and have a wish to abandon it. Yeah, so that's kind of in relation with the power of remorse. And then the power of prayer, the fifth one, is then referring that all one's virtues and generation of the body-mind one should never let degenerate, but let increase more and more, and also make strong prayers in that direction. Yeah, so that are the 5 powers here indicated in the first 2 lines of that verse. So those first 5 powers just been explained, yeah, refers to the aspect in this life. And then in relation with the 5 powers themselves, they are the great vehicles, precepts on the transfers of consciousness. Those 5, one should also cultivate, as it says, cultivates these parts of the practice. So what are those 5? Those 5 meaning that one gives away or get detached of one's possessions. Yeah, so that is here accumulation of virtue by that aspect, and that is what we call the power of the white seeds at the time of transfers of consciousness. The second one is the power of intention, meaning not to get attached to one's body and to get to increase the body mind. Yeah, so the power of attention. Then the power of remorse, number 3, is in this context to see the faults of the afflictions and to remember that, and because of that, to have the wish to eliminate it. Yeah, so the power of remorse. And then the power of prayer here is to never be separated. Make a prayer, never be separated from the development of bodhicitta. So that's the power of prayer. And then the power of acquaintance, meaning that when the bodhicitta is being generated within one's mind stream, one should contemplate it again and again in order to make that a strong habituation. So that's the power of acquaintance. So these kind of 5, one should cultivate these parts of practice, it says. And then it says the parts of practice. Yeah, so parts of practice next to these 5 points just mentioned also the part of practice in regards with how one should die, or the similar way how one should fall asleep is, as we often indicate, with the right hand on the right cheek, and you lay on your side, and with your left hand on your left thigh, in the aspect of the lion pose, so to say. Also the Buddha showed that aspect of passing away, so we should engage in a similar kind of part of practice. Then it talks about number 5 in the outline, yeah, the measure of having trained the mind. Then it gives the advice, integrate all the teachings into one thought, meaning that all the teachings of the Buddha, yeah, and the over 100 of the words of the Buddha, the Kangyur, and then the commentaries of the Tengyur, the 200 plus texts, they basically are going down to one thought or one essence, and that two essence is twofold, and that means the mind of bodhicitta and the view of emptiness. So that are the essential aspects of all the teachings of the Buddha. Then it says primary importance should be given with the 2 witnesses. So 2 witnesses, meaning one should be careful in front of others. Yeah. So if others are the witness, one should practice correctly. But when others are not present, oneself should guard one's behavior. So that means there's twofold witnesses, others and oneself. So don't think if others don't look, it doesn't matter. One should have also the intention to to be careful. So there's 2 witnesses, others and self. Constantly cultivate only a peaceful mind means whatever circumstances you face, if it's either difficult or not, one should always have a constant kind of peaceful mind and should not be influenced by various types of circumstances. And then when it says the measure of trained the mind is that it's turned away, meaning that whatever one faces, that one should always turn away the self-cherishing attitude. Or the mind of the self-cherishing attitude, one should always abandon that and turn that away. And then the commentary also mentioned the 5 year, there are the 5 great marks of a trained mind. Yeah. So what are those 5 marks of a great trained mind? There it says having the possibility or generating patience when experiencing suffering. So a great kind of ability to do that when facing difficulties. That's the first one. The second one is to have a strong mind that cherishing others. Yeah, so that's the second level. The third one is that one should have the great practice of virtue, and well, the virtue that one does not go away from one's correct practice. The fourth one is seeing that even the most subtle forms of, in order to subdue the mind in a great way, One should avoid even the most subtle or slight forms of obscurations or negative deeds or downfalls. One should avoid those. That's number 4. Number 5 means that one should be a yogi of a great yogi of the practice of the great vehicle. Then it says, yeah, there are the 5 great marks of a trained mind. And then also a further point here is a trained mind retains control even when distracted, it says. So even when you are in difficult situations, then the mind should not completely wander off. And if it slightly wanders off, one should practice in a way as skillful, riding a horse and guiding in that way to even having to practice patience even with smaller types of disturbance or circumstances. Then we come to the outline number 6, yeah, the commitments of the mind training. So the first one, it says, don't go against the mind training you promise to observe. Yes, you always keep your promises in accordance with your intention. Don't be reckless in your practice, yeah, to let things wander off or lose their potential. Number 3 is don't be partial, always train in these 3 general points. Yeah, so yeah, also the points of training the mind, training to be promised, and don't be reckless and don't be partial. So train in these 3 general points. Then it says transform your attitudes, but maintain your natural behavior. So it doesn't mean you have to wear all kind of different types of clothing or whatsoever. It's the mind training that counts. So the mind should transform, but your external behavior should remain in a natural or the same way. So yeah, then number 5, right? Yeah. So number 5, don't speak of others' false or incomplete qualities. Yeah. Number 6, don't concern yourself with others' business, or we should basically consider more with our own mind, and in particular looking at our own faults. Train to counter whichever disturbing emotion is greatest. So you check in your own mind whatever affliction is the strongest, if it's attachment or anger, and you should counteract that, apply the antidotes. Give up hope of reward. That means that as we follow the great vehicle, we should, whatever virtue we engage in, we should also dedicate for the purpose of others. And number 9, avoid poisoning food. That means that one should always give up the 8 worldly dharmas and the self-cherishing attitude. So then number 10, don't maintain misplaced loyalty, meaning if not applying the antidotes to afflictions and holding malice, so one should not engage in that. One should apply the antidotes and with a good intention. Do not make sarcastic remarks. Yeah, so talk about in a sarcastic way about the faults of others. Number 11, then number 12, do not lie in ambush, meaning that waiting at a particular moment for somebody to harm a particular individual and waiting for that moment, one should not engage in that. Number 13, don't strike at a vital point, meaning in the sense of looking or talking about the faults of others in gatherings, or looking at the faults of others to disgrace them. Then number 14, don't burden an ox with a load of a zoo. So give one's responsibility to others and then blame them. One should not engage in that, and don't abuse the practice of helping others to subdue their mind. So yeah, so I'm sorry, then 15, don't abuse the practice of subduing the mind of others. Yeah, so one should engage in that aspect. 16, don't sprint to win the race or to get profit, or explaining, oh, I did this, I did that, you know, to praise oneself in that way when doing well. That should not be engaged in. Don't turn gods into devils, meaning if you don't apply the antidotes of the self-cherishing attitude in relation with the mind training, then one will not progress. In a similar way, if you study and you study with a self-cherishing attitude or a strong sense of a self, that then actually what you do is actually you transform medicine of the Dharma you're studying into poison, right? So you should always do things with the right intention and not motivated with a self-cherishing thought. Don't seek others' miseries as means to happiness. So one should always look for establishing the happiness of others and not focus upon their suffering, and please be pleased with that. So that are the 18 commitments of the mind training. So then number 7, right? The precepts of the mind training. It says every yoga or every activity should be performed as one. Yeah. So that means whatever one engages in, if it's daily activity of eating, clothing oneself, or wandering in a particular place, it should always be done in relation with and accordance with the mind training. Then number 2, all errors are to be amended by one means. That means that whatever appears or whatever circumstances you meet, if it's bad conditions or afflictions, one should always use one particular method to oppose that, and that is the method of the mind training. Number 3, there are 2 activities, beginning and end, that refers to the motivation and dedication. Yeah, the motivation in the beginning and a dedication in the end. So for example, in the morning, when you contemplate bodhicitta and emptiness the best way you can, and then you put it into practice throughout the day, and then in the evening, you dedicate or you make a prayer that you will practice bodhicitta and emptiness until enlightenment is achieved. Then number 4, it says whatever occurs, be patient with both. Yeah. So whatever occurs, meaning if it's happiness or suffering, you should always take the mind training of patience into account. Then guard both at the cost of your life. That means that guard both, here referring to the precepts of the Dharma in general, and then the commitments of the mind training, like the 18 commitments of mind training, so to say. We should both of them, the general precepts of the Dharma as well as these precepts of the mind training, guarded at the cost of your life. And number 6, train in the 3 difficulties. That means that you should always remember the antidote. Then when afflictions arise, you should stop them with applying the antidote, and then eventually stop the continuity of the afflictions. So there are the 3, train in the 3 difficulties: remembering antidotes, stopping afflictions when arise, and stop the afflictions for the future. So then number 7, where it says seek for the 3 principal causes. So what are those 3 principal causes? Those 3 principal causes is to seek or look for a good lama or good teacher, and to meet. And the second one is make one mind suitable for the practice. And the third one is to get the right corporate conditions of eating and clothing. So that is the 3 principal causes for one's practice. Then it says, don't let the 3 factors weaken. So what are those weaken factors? Not to let it weaken, get weakened. Weakened is like one's respect and aspiration for the teacher or the lama. Second one, one's interest into the mind training. And third one, one's conscientiousness in relation with the 3 doors of body, speech, and mind. One should never let that degenerate. Then number 8, where it says, don't let the 3, oh, we just did it, right? Yeah, sorry. 9, never be parted from the 3 possessions. Yeah, so what are these 3 possessions? One should never be separated from. That means one's body in the nature of prostration or circumambulation, one's mind in the form of prayer or request or reciting mantra. Sorry, one's speech. Yeah, so one's body in the form of prostrations or circumambulation, one's speech with making requests, supplications, and reciting mantras. One's mind should never be separated from the body-mind. So there are the 3 possessions. Then number 10, there it says train constantly without a partiality. So there also it says that one should train in the mind training, and one should train in the mind training equally to those who are enemies, friends, and neutral persons. So in all of those 3, one should not be partial regards to those 3 individuals. Number 11, it says the value of encompassing and far-reaching practice. So that means that the mind training or the practice of the mind training, whatever object you encounter or whatever activity you engage in, one should never give up the training of the mind training and do it from the depths of one's heart. Then number 13, 12. 12, yeah. Train constantly to deal with difficult situations. So 12 means that one's even at a difficult situations with one's family or with enemies or with those who you like to benefit, then one should never be separated from a correct behavior, and see that one should see that everything arises from and to the power of karma. And then in relation with one's father and mother, for example, and all one's close relatives. Yeah, so there are actually 5 sections there, meaning one's direct family members, enemies, and those you like to benefit. And then those aspects of the karmic, that things are karmic related understanding, one should never give up. And then one's close friends, one should always, to regards with those different groups, one should always focus upon them. And as it says here, with encompassioning, far-reaching attitude. Then don't rely on others' conditions, meaning that one should so one should have corporate conditions of food and clothing, and not destroy these kind of conditions. Then number 13, yeah, so to correct that aspect, even if you have the various you rely on other conditions, meaning that if you have conditions of food and clothing or not, one should never wander off, yeah, from one's mind, and never give up the mind training. Then number 14, engage in the principal practices right now. That means that one should not do the different or separate oneself from the practice of the mind training. Then don't apply a wrong understanding. And number 15, yeah, so there's various forms of wrong understanding, but generally speaking, we should not engage in misunderstandings of misunderstandings of the practice of the mind training, to summarize that. Then number 16, don't be sporadic. Yeah, that means that sometimes you engage in things and sometimes you don't. So one should have a stable aspect of the training and never give up. That's also in relation with number 17. Yeah, even when hardships are coming, one should endure those hardships and keep going very strongly. Yeah, so that's number 17. Then number 18, release investigation and analysis. So that refers to 2 types of analytical contemplation, one in relation with the coarser aspects and one with the subtler aspects. Then in relation with 19, don't be boastful, meaning that for the purpose of sentient beings, as one has promised, one should engage in the mind training, and for the purpose of benefiting them. So one should not be boastful in regards with those kind of trainings. And then also not sometimes engage it and sometimes do not engage in it. One have to have a stable practice in that regard. Then don't be short-tempered with your mind, and don't make short-lived attempts, and don't expect gratitude. That is number 22. So that concludes, it says here, this is concluded with a quotation of Geshe Shenkawa, who had an experience of the awakening mind. May manifold aspirations have given rise to the eliminating criticism and suffering, but having received instructions for taming the misconception of self, even if I have to die, I have no regrets. Yeah, so that's the last verse. And then in the commentary, Rinpoche read the colophon of the actual commentary by Chichen Rinpoche based on Pabonka's outline of Chagawa's mind training of the Lamrim, and that commentary is then based upon the various texts of the mind rays, like the rays of the sun, for example, and the essential nectar. So various texts are being used to compose this particular commentary based on the outlines of Kyabshe Pabonka Rinpoche. So sorry, we went a little bit over time, although it's a very short text, but to go over it in more detail, you can depend on other sources, like, for example, Lama Tsongkhapa's great exposition of the stages of the path to enlightenment. And then you can study these points more into detail, and then you try to put that into practice. So that's kind of the final advice. And I would like to thank everybody involved in organizing this evening. So thank you very much.
기시 딘진 남달라 아니 유르 남바들 투지체 쉬어이 투지체 카레라웨 고르웨 싱감들 팬다 대와 말리 중에네 제레스원 딘진 샤베 신데 바두 땡유지 팬데 중에 템바 다르신게 딘진 기부 탐제 공 르첸군라 데기 중에네 산제 템바 개교지 전주 semjo rinpoche 마게 빠나 게 개바 냠바 매바야 고네 공도 페워 쇼 파마 semjen 대단 댕규제 년로 탐제 다도 동화다 전주 sem 수쇼바 대다 군제 몰 뉴주 쇼 최게 갸보 종가바 주주 넘버 페워 게게 참아 시와다 튕겸 상월 쇼 다단 신기 두순단 제베 초년라 자왈로산 잡아이 땜바이 렘바규지 thank you